Sindh is one of the provinces in Pakistan where we still have that feudal mindset. I don't know if I can explain it to the people that it's more like that this was one of the regions where different feudals and different regional leaders existed at the time of partition. They basically controlled the land, and majority of the people used to work for them. Like they were farmers and they were like people who would work on the lands of that feudal. So, apart from providing that economic benefit, that feudal suddenly became the decision maker of their households as well. So, anything that had to take place in that particular region had to be agreed upon by that particular feudal. That reduced to some extent over the years, but in some regions, especially this Mirpur Khas region, those feudal mindsets still exist. So one of the participants did tell me in the interview that, people not responding to our cafeteria was that a XYZ feudal uh, communicated it to the community that, you're not allowed to go to that cafeteria. You shouldn't go to that cafeteria because these people haven't taken permission from me to operate all of these kind of things. Although those feudals don't own the land on which these people now live or
And
they
it's perfectly
operate, or
legal
they,
to operate, yeah.
it's perfectly legal to operate any kind of business, but that mindset is still there that, we have been here from generations and these people had to come to us to first seek permission that whether they want to cooperate with Sujan people or not, or whether they want people to come out, come, from other cities. And then uh, adjacent impact of this is that because these feudals control that region, they or their relatives are usually the people who get elected to the parliament. They become ministers, they occupy government roles as well. So if they are not happy with you, then they can apply government pressure to destabilize you or not to provide you with facilities. If a road leading to a Sujan cafe is broken or destroyed during the floods, they would make sure that is not, you know,
Repaired,
repaired
sorted, yeah.
on time. Exactly. So there are multiple things which people did share with me, that these female entrepreneurs shared with me, that there are multiple challenges. So there are, I mean, they were happy that they got the opportunity to come out from their homes and showcase their talents, showcase their potentials, but then these societal implications do still exist in one way or the other.
Yeah, that is interesting because I mentioned because it's not any legal framework that allows them to do this, I guess, the influence
Yeah.
from getting elected officials and stuff
Mm,
aside.
mm.
I'm curious because it seems to just be like an influence thing, at least from what I'm hearing. These feudals seem to do have a lot of influence over the local people
Yes.
in terms of where they spend their money, what they do. Even in regards to get elected, right? I mean, ultimately, I would assume that you would elect your local officials. That's still
Yeah.
individuals choosing, but they still seem to have a lot of influence over the general population to make sure that their family members, their associates, are elected into those positions.
Mm,
Why?
mm.
I mean, maybe you don't have an answer for this, obviously, because it's kind of getting more into the political space. But why do you think they still have such an influence over these areas, particularly since it's not legal for them to have such influence anymore in terms of the
Uh,
feudalist nature?
I think it's, I mean, solely speaking from my own observation, Max, I think it's because of the male dominance in the households, because those male representatives or men in the house, they kind of try to avoid conflict with that particular feudal or any kind of influential person in that
Right.
region. And when they come asking for votes, so in Pakistan, it's more like it's not more like in rural areas specifically, not in the cities. In the rural areas, it's more like a village gets to decide unanimously for which candidate they're going to vote, and anybody who disagrees with that then they are termed as an outsider, to be honest. And then
Interesting.
so that's so they call upon those elders of that village where that influential person might uh, you know try to influence them. Then they come back to their village, they advise all of the families living over there that we as a village have decided to vote in favor of XYZ, and then the entire village gets to decide on that. So that does happen in lots of areas. Again, I'm not generalizing it, but in some of the regions of the of Pakistan, this still happens. And another interesting fact, which was pointed out by some of the international agencies in some of the previous, God knows, 10, 15 years old elections, and they always point it out, to be honest, is that uh, females are not, female voting ratio is very low in some regions of Pakistan. In some areas, there have been cases where zero female vote was casted in the entire election process. So that is also true. That is also another fact which
And women
happens
have
in the
full
country.
voting capabilities and rights comparisons to
They
men.
have full voting capabilities.
They're just not turning out.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
probably due
yeah.
to influence from their families and networks, I'm imagining.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So even if somebody's getting, let's say, 1,000 votes for all from the male members, they will still get elected to the parliament. They don't require female votes in order to, you know, get into that region. So, but coming back to the discussion, so this, all of this does have an impact on how sustainable these initiatives are, because that is one of the things that we tried to discuss in this case study, was that in Sindh in Pakistan, when we tried to explore some other organizations as well, there have been initiatives that only lasted for a couple of years. They were not sustainable, and in majority of those cases the reason was that the community buy-in was not there, the influence of some powerful people was not there. They were not happy with what's going on in certain areas. So that was one of our main concern that we wanted to highlight, that can we ensure the sustainability of such initiatives? Can we connect these small organizations with larger organizations operating in the cities, where they can establish a network and then ensure that despite all of these factors, can we develop a business model where all of these factors, I mean, I can't say we can eliminate the impact of these factors, but at least try to minimize them to some extent. We can try to sit in a civilized manner with some of these influentials and talk about the reservations, that what is the reservation? Was it only just a permission that these people had to secure from you, or is that something else? Is there any fear that if
Hmm.
a female comes out and develops her own business, earns her own livelihood, then that so-called authority of the male figure in the household, community, region, that gets undermined to some extent? So it kind of connects to a larger issue that we have in the country.
Yeah, it seems like a really unique problem that has to be addressed by the progress. So yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that develops over time as well.